Give me the lights, camera, action.
Yeah.
Right, we're all good to go?
I'd like to think it's going to be a win. I said it was going to be 3-0 on Tuesday, so I was 2 goals ahead. But I got them, from volunteering in the shop to I did a little bit of programme selling, voluntary, and then so yeah, I don't have a lot to do with the football side of things. I support Paul as much as I can in terms of all the other areas of it, but
Hello and welcome to the London Bulls podcast in the absolutely glorious surroundings of Edgar Street with my good friend Tom here. Tom, good to see you. How you doing?
I'm alright, mate. Yeah, I'm. Do you know what? I'm in a good place at the moment because Hereford are playing very, very well, and I think it can only really be down to one man, can't it? Obviously, Paul Caddis, but we've also got Hereford FC General Manager with us as well today, Jamie Griffiths. Jamie, hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the London Bulls podcast. How are you today?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Thanks for the invite, first of all. Yeah, it's good. Sun is shining, the rain has stopped, and we've got a home game, so yeah, all good.
Hopefully we can wrap it with 3 points today.
Yes, that would be lovely, wouldn't it? Great run of form at the minute. But yeah, hopefully we can keep going.
I mean, Jamie's an absolute legend. Every Hereford fan pretty much knows you. You've done every position like that is possible within the club. But how did the greatest love affair of all begin with Hereford? What was your first game and how did you get involved with the club?
My dad brought me along. I can't honestly remember my first home game. It would have been kind of 89-90 season. I remember my first away game was Barnet away, and I think we lost 1-0. But yeah, that's it. Started coming with my dad. Started off in H block over there, up in the Gods. And then when the family stand opened, we went to the family stand. Then progressed to the Meadow End and kind of grew up from there, really. So
yeah. Seems like everybody's first game was a loss for Hereford, and yet we all still come.
I know. Why did we come back?
What's going on? So 89-90 then. So were you at the Man United game?
I wasn't at the Man United game. So probably deemed to be too much of a risk for me, maybe as a youngster. So yeah, I wasn't there, but yeah. So
what are your memories of the 90s then? Obviously, a lot of big games again, lots of FA Cup games.
Really good memories of the 90s. My first kit is one of the retro ones we got now, with the stripes over the shoulders. I remember getting it for my birthday, and I was mascot. So I had like a kit and a ball and then like a little note saying you're going to be mascot. But yeah, growing up with some players like really obscure, like Chris Fry and things like that, Max Nicholson and players like that, I really enjoyed it. I loved them. As a kid, you don't really, think, we finished 17th every season, didn't we? But as a kid, you don't really notice that. You just kind of enjoy the moment. So I used to do a lot of community stuff with Brian Williams at the time. He was here, footballing the community officer, and I'd go to all the summer soccer schools and get a thrill when a player would come and we get a signed ball at the end and stuff like that. So yeah, the 90s were fantastic. I saw Tony Elliott the other week and I had to remind him that I scored a penalty past him, and he couldn't remember. He was like, "What game is this?" I was like, "The St Paul's Primary Open Day." So really good memories, really good. Yeah.
At what point did you start volunteering with the club then? Because I know you're a ball boy. So when did that start to happen?
Pretty quickly actually. Yeah. So my mum back then was involved in the junior balls with Colin Butler and Les Saunders and Les Walker and a lot of other people as well. I started ball boying. Did that for quite a few years. Then I started volunteering in the club shop on a match day with Marcy, who is, she was running the shop at the time. She still volunteers now on a match day. Kind of just went from there really, from one role to the other. But really just love the place. You just fall in love with it, don't you?
For sure.
It's like my second home.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's definitely become that, obviously. You've done since. So obviously 97 wasn't quite such a good year for us. What are your memories of that season, but also of obviously getting relegated to Brighton, where they are now as well?
I don't know whether it's because I must have been like 13, 14 at the time. I don't really remember much of the season bar the last two games. It was Leyton Orient away. obviously I think it was 2-1 that we lost that. I remember getting on the bus. I think the junior boards must have run the bus. Got on the bus and tuning into 5 Live to listen to the scores because you didn't have phones back in those days. So listening to the sports report and just realising that it had kind of gone down to the last game of the season. And yeah, the Brighton game, not fond memories, obviously. I was ball boy for that. I just remember being out on the pitch and my mum coming out and, with everyone else on the pitch at full time. And, it was a real worry. My mum was working here at the time, so it was like, does she have a job next year? Things like that as well. So yeah, not great, but, Graham obviously handed in his notice and that was kind of turned down. And then I remember going into the following season kind of thinking, yeah, we got this. We're going to get straight back up, promoted straight away. I think David Norton, the captain and fullback at the time, he got these T-shirts printed with on loan to the Vauxhall Conference or whatever, which obviously came out to bite us a bit. But it's one of them, isn't it?
Yeah. Obviously, we then start to move up, start to get into the playoffs. Obviously, 2003-4, that first season where we just lost out to Chester.
Yeah.
We, the London Bulls, have got a screening coming up. We're going to be streaming the Dag Red game from that season, 9-0, of course. Right. What are your memories of that game? I understand you were there. You were dressed up.
Yeah.
So, what do you remember about that day? Obviously, big wins. Not the only big win of the season.
No.
7-1s and all.
Yeah, there were quite a few.
How mad was that game?
Crazy, and what followed as well was crazy. I don't do fancy dress ever. So, when one of our mates said, I think we'd lost 2-0 to Woking or 2-1 or something here the week before. And he was like, well, let's go to Dagenham. We're going to Dagenham anyway, but he said, let's go in fancy dress. Obviously, Sky cameras there and, try and bring a little bit of positivity because it was all kind of very down at the time, obviously after a home defeat. And I think all season, although we got some big wins, maybe not all season, all through Hereford United's history, kind of struggled to beat teams at home. So I think we just got a little bit depressed about that. So going to the Dagenham game, obviously no one ever expects to win 9-0. It just kind of got crazier and crazier as the night went on, really. So it's fantastic atmosphere. There weren't a great deal of Hereford fans there. Probably quite a few. Most of them were from London, London Bulls, really. I don't think the bus, we went down on the bus, I don't think it was full. But 9-0, it's to say you've been there and it's not often Hereford win 9-0, so let alone live on TV.
Surprisingly, no Dagenham fans have signed up to the streaming next week, which is a surprise. But then, if we fast forward to 2005, I think you landed your first full-time role at the club.
Yeah.
So how did that all come about then?
So I went from volunteering in the shop to I did a little bit of programme selling, voluntary, and then Mark Farmer, who was doing the website at the time, I knew him because he was my football coach, basically. I mean, if anyone's lived football, Mark Farmer knows everything about football, I have to say. So he got me involved on the website. I used to come in and interview Graham on a Friday morning and things like that. And I used to video the games as well. And it just kind of progressed from there. The website internet wasn't really a big thing back when I started. But, we did, I think, me and Mark, we did the first video interviews with Graham. We did the first kind of highlights that were available online, because before that you had to buy the VHS. I've still got a stack of them at home. But, it just progressed from there, really. And then I was videoing over there one season, and then it was like, we need someone to write match reports for the website. So I kind of went over into the press box. It just kind of rolled from there, and then it got a bigger role, and Graham and Joan offered me and Mark kind of part-time hours. So
nice.
Went from there.
And what was your first experience of Graham? You've been a fan, you've seen him growing up, and then kind of working with him. Do you remember your first interaction with him when you started?
Graham is an absolute legend.
Yeah.
He's right up there. I don't remember. I remember his first day because I remember being up in the Starlight rooms at the time. The junior Bulls used to have it on a match day. Looking out the window and seeing fans walking down the ground singing Graham Turner songs. I don't remember my first meeting with him, but I do remember he, back when it was, you got to remember when this was, but he would get people to call him Mr. Turner because he was manager. You know, he doesn't now, obviously, but so I remember it was always, he was very authoritative, like it seemed that big figure, Mr. Turner, the staff would have to call him Mr. Turner, but the nicest guy ever, honestly. I know he probably has a bit of a reputation, but he's fantastic, and this football club wouldn't be the football club it was without Graham. So I know he got a lot of abuse, you know, certainly towards the end of his spell, but he came in, he took the club to heart, and you know, put his own money in. You know, he's a man of great kind of honour, and that hence offering his resignation when we got relegated, which obviously was rejected. But yeah, Graham's fantastic. He's a really, really good guy.
Yeah, I think we've realised, haven't we, since he's left, how good a job he did on the budgets that we had, and you know, and obviously, you know, something we still have to deal with now is trying to work out the best budget players, and got some good players now, haven't we? So it's obviously working at the moment. Which obviously you've worked with a lot of managers over the years. Obviously, Hereford United and Hereford FC, but what surprised? Who has surprised you the most in terms of manager, and you know, how different were maybe some of them to what you thought they were going to be like, especially bigger names, maybe, you know, and to how they actually turned out. Yeah,
I remember Richard O'Kelly when he came back as manager for that 10 games spell. I think literally the first thing he did when he got here was clean the boot room, and everyone was like, "Why? What, you know, there's bigger tasks to do than clean the boot room. Why are you getting them to clean the boot room?" And he's like, "If you tidy off the pitch, you tidy on it." It's quite a good kind of little thing for the players, and I've heard other managers since kind of have the same kind of mentality. So he was really big on mentality, like get it right off the pitch, it will be right on the pitch as well. So, you know, that's a real life lesson, I think, is make sure that kind of all areas of your life are sorted, and it's a lot easier. You know, I think I've got on with every manager. I think they might disagree, I don't know, but I honestly think I got on with every manager. You know, some of the bigger names, Russell Slade, when he came, I thought he's going to come here, he's going to be arrogant, and could not be further from the truth. You know, obviously things didn't work out on the pitch in the end, but really nice guy. You know, I honestly can't think of a manager that I didn't get on personally. I think sometimes from when you're in the stands, you just see the defeats or poor performances, but every manager works hard behind the scenes. You know, I've not come across a manager who's had bad results because they haven't put the effort in, or you know, things just don't work out for them. Yeah, but I have worked with quite a few.
You mentioned like how Richard O'Kelly cleaned the boot room, and in the Rob Purdy podcast, he talked about successful teams always seem to like live in Hereford and bought into the city. Yeah. Are there any other aspects that successful managers have done here, like that have led to a successful team? Like, you know, what did Peter Beadle do that made us successful? Yeah. What else did Graham Turner do? Like, what do you think makes a successful side?
I think there's a reoccurring thing with successful manager. Beads is one, Caddis as well, that they want to make the gap between on the pitch and in the stands as little as possible. They want the fans and the players to be close, and it goes back to what Purge is saying about living in the city or whatever. Obviously, once you're part-time, it's hard for that to happen, but it's trying to get the players embedded within the community. And I think all the successful managers have realised that very early on and tried to do things to kind of open up channels of communication, or make the players and the fans feel a lot as one, really. Okay. I'm not quite sure it's really happened much, but you'd love to make Edgar Street a fortress. Yeah. You know, the wall that of noise that the Meadow End can make is unreal on its day. So I think managers see that. I know Paul's seen it when he came here for Swindon, and other managers have said when they've come here as opposition that they're always like, that's a decent crowd. So I think when they come here as manager, they want to take advantage of that, really. Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting, you know, so that noise, players have decided to come here based on crowds. Obviously, I think Romain Campbell has said that. Yeah. obviously Johnny Mills, Pablo said it's the best decision they ever made coming here, not just because of the promotions, but because of the crowd, because you're never going to play in front of 3,500, 4,000 people very often. But what's it like? So, what's it like when a new manager comes in? I mean, obviously you're in your position now. You've got Paul Caddis, but what's it like? How do things change? What do managers try and change everything all the way down, or is it, you know, some hands on, some hands off?
I think some have in the past tried to change a lot of things very quickly, and I don't think that necessarily works.
Yeah.
I think Paul's come in and he's obviously very early on identified the key areas in his opinion that need his time and effort, and he's gone about and done that, and I think that's why we got the results on the pitch that we got now, because you know, he's very driven. He knows what he wants, what he needs, and he knows how to kind of lead it to get that way. So yeah, I think sometimes some managers in the past have maybe tried to get too involved in too much, and one man can't do the whole thing. So I think the good managers know the areas where they need to spend their time and effort, and yeah, Paul's just one of them really.
And what's it like when a manager comes in for you now, or new players? Like, do you have to like induct them in like, to the club? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, no, not really. So I was obviously involved in the last lot of interviews with Paul and the round before where we didn't actually appoint. But in terms of once they get in, I think on Paul's first day, I took him around to meet the volunteers, and we walked through the bars and he said hello to people and things like that. In terms of an induction, we're very lucky that we have Nick Marsh, our football secretary.
Cool.
Probably people might not have heard his name. He does a fantastic job on the football side of things. So my role, I don't really, I'd love to take the credit for obviously the wins out on the pitch, but the football's absolutely nothing to do with me, which I'm sure everyone's sighing a huge sigh of relief really. So yeah, I don't have a lot to do with the football side of things. You know, I support Paul as much as I can in all the other areas of it, but Nick's great on all the kind of the paperwork and all of that, you know, making all the sign-ins and things like that happen. So yeah.
Can I ask, does like Paul, would he text you before he came, be like, how many tickets we sold and stuff? Like, is that ever a thing, or have managers ever done that?
To be fair, he's stopped lately. Definitely last season, if I had a £1 every time Paul had asked what I thought the attendance would be, I'd be a very rich man. But I did bump into him in Waitrose this morning, buying my porridge, and we were at the till next to each other. He's like, what's the crowd going to be? I got this little kind of spreadsheet that I type in, and it predicts the crowd. It's pretty accurate
cool. That's
now.
Awesome.
So yeah, but it's Sean, the goalkeeping coach, who's always, it's a bit of a running joke because he comes in the office on a Saturday to get the printouts for him to do the set pieces, and he'll always say at some point, what's the gate going to be? So the odd occasion where he doesn't, he goes out of the office and we're like, he's not asked what the gate's going to be.
It must be odd, obviously being a big fan of the club that you work for, you know. It'd be like being, you know, a big fan of Wiggins or something and then working. It's an odd prospect for all of us, isn't it? But obviously in your time you've seen us in the Football League go down to the conference, back up to the Football League, back to the conference, go out of business and then come back, you know. What's the big differences that you see, obviously apart from money maybe, but the Football League, conference, all the way down to obviously Midland Football League coming back up? You know, what's the big sort of areas that you see that's so different?
Money is a massive one. Obviously, you know, League One, there was a lot of money at the time. We were obviously in League One at the same time as Leeds and Leicester, which was absolutely insane, you know, to go places like that. And to see, because we were still a relatively small club, so we didn't necessarily have all that money. But yeah, it's the investment in all the off the pitch type things. They might seem very little, but I think when you're at a higher level, it's like those small percentages really count, don't they? And I think more so in the cup, in the last kind of, I know, 4 or 5 years, the lower down you get, they're doing that as well. Whereas I don't, in the past, I think when we were in the conference before with, when Graham was manager and there were part-time teams, you'd see they weren't the fittest, you could see tactically they weren't the greatest teams, there were teams that just used to come and, kick us in the air. Whereas that's fewer and far between now. Teams invest at, this level and below in like all the analytics, like GPS, things like that. Overnight stays. We haven't got that big a budget in this league, so we don't necessarily do all that. Paul's very selective. Paul's great with the budget. I know Stig's joked in the past about Scottish and being tight, but I think he just identifies where he needs to spend that money, and he's good at identifying the right areas really. So there's no waste on that side of it. But yeah, years ago I think there was a big gap. All it is now is the money gets you the better GPS, the better software, the better staff, the better coaches. But even when we're in the Midland Prem, Bees used to hammer me about trying to make sure the team bus was as comfy as it was. It didn't have a kitchen on it at the time, so I used to have to take urns of hot water so that players could have tea and coffee, which is a basic thing. If you're travelling 2 hours, you want to be having that kind of thing. So I think it's just that. I remember Richard O'Kelly said, what his job as a manager is to take away the excuses from the players. So don't let them go on the pitch and say, well, we didn't have a pre-match, or we didn't do this, or we didn't do that. Take all the excuses away, so that when they're on the pitch, it's down to them to perform. And I think most managers kind of will do that now. So I go in the changing room. Paul's pre-match, he's got this big whiteboard and he writes notes and pointers. It's so in-depth and thorough. It must take him hours in the week to kind of sit in his office, and that's what fans don't see. It's Paul in the office. He'll come down on a Thursday for training. He's here Friday. He just stays in his office and gets all that kind of work done. He doesn't have people to do it for him. He does it himself. And I guess another difference is the higher up, he's got a team of people to do that work for him. So
as you said, like, you've had so much experience seeing all the different leagues. What's it like as a general manager for you when you go to these like away clubs? Are you kind of observing what they do? Do you know the other general managers quite well? Like
all the time. They're always looking for like how other people do things. Even if it's a smaller club than us, there's still things that they might be doing better or differently. And there's certain clubs like in the Football League that I kind of keep an eye on to kind of just see what they're doing, because they're always quite good at their game. But in terms of relationships with other clubs, it's a bit funny because at the end of the day, you are competitors. So there's like, you don't really want to help each other too much, but equally it's like you want to be friends. So I know Matt Wall at Kiddie really well from like Hereford United days, because he's been there since then as well. So get on really well with him, but you never want to help too much, because they are our enemies at the end of the day.
You said you keep an eye on a couple. Can you name one or two?
Exeter City. They're really well run, and putting my media hat on from years ago, I thought their media stuff was really good. And so, I'd email them and ask for help and advice and things. So people are, they're quite friendly and willing to help. Andy Walker, he was at Birmingham City. He's now been with England as their comms guy for years and years, and he's always, happy to help, with any advice. There's quite a few, to be fair, but teams around our level, there's a kind of respectful, kind of friendly, but you never want to get too close.
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely. What would you say was working for Hereford United and FC? What's been your favourite period? What is it that you've enjoyed?
The promotion to League One, that League Two season was just mad, because I remember standing out there interviewing Graham at the start of the season. I think we had about 6 players signed on, and my last question was, where are we going to finish? And he said, we'll get promoted, and laughed. Well, we got promoted, so he's right, wasn't he?
That's incredible.
He knew something that no one else did at the time. So yeah, that League Two season, League One was fantastic. I know we got relegated, but for me personally, to go to some of the really big clubs, you know, standing outside like the dressing room at Leeds United and Leicester waiting for Graham to come and do his interviews, it's like that behind the scenes stuff. And they're all so welcoming. You know, Leicester City, John Sanders, I still speak to him now. He was a media guy at Leicester. He's now the player liaison guy at Leicester. And you know, he's just so welcoming, and you can learn a lot from that because, like in the conference, you didn't really have other press officers and things like that. So to go to a club where you got welcomed in, you know, proper press room, we learned a lot from that during the time.
Yeah, you've seen so many different eras, as we said,
Yeah.
but obviously that's one of the high moments. But obviously one of the low moments was obviously the Gombar regime coming in.
Yeah.
Did you kind of know straight away like things weren't right behind the scenes? Or
Yeah. I remember sitting in the office the day he walked in. He walked in through the Blackfriars gate. It must have been open. They must have been doing the pitch or something. Gate was open, so he walked through the back door of the office, and we're like, "Who's this?" And he said, "Hi, my name's Tommy. I'm in the business of buying football clubs." Honestly, I was like,
oh, jeez.
I lasted 2 weeks. I don't want to say too much. I lasted 2 weeks. I had meetings with Tommy, meetings with Andy, and the final meeting was a meeting with Mark Ellis, not our current Mark Ellis, who's a great guy.
Yeah.
Mark Ellis, the football director of football or whatever he was at the time, and you just get a feeling, don't you? Like a gut feeling, and I go off my gut feeling quite a lot in life. And I walked out of that meeting up in the Hereford City, walked into the office, Lee was at his desk. Lee Simmons, by the way, great guy, fantastic guy with Hereford United. I walked in, I said, I'm done, I can't do this anymore. I literally walked out to Blackfriars Street end and just sat there for half an hour and then went home, and that was it. So,
Jeez.
yeah, not nice times. It was the people, because we weren't getting paid, the staff weren't getting paid, the players weren't getting paid. Nibbo was doing bucket collections for staff, and supporters were chucking, you know, good money in and kind of helping get the staff through those months of not being paid. The players were great at the time, you know, the whole older shop thing, Bede's fantastic, Jenks as well. There was a really good spirit amongst the players and the staff, and it just kind of got ruined. So just, yeah, not a nice memory, you know, but you know, it is what it is. It's where we are now. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously it led to the club being renamed. You went to Newport County at that time as well. How was that? How did you find going there and what that was like?
The guys at Newport were great. So Lewis obviously left here, had a couple of people that I knew from the game saying, oh, there might be a job here, might be a job there. I went to a few places. I went to Newport, and Lewis Richards, who was a football secretary at the time, was there. Had a chat with him, had an interview, got the job. Met James Watts. That's how I know James. The guys at Newport are fantastic. It's a quite a similar club to Hereford, like fan base wise, and the expectation as well. And I loved it there, but it was never Hereford. So I was there when the whole Hereford FC was kind of getting reformed, and I was still involved here. I videoed the fans forums and things like that. I did a video of the boycott and things like that. So I was still kind of involved with Hereford FC, but I was just like looking at the updates coming through. I was just like, you know, you just miss something, don't you? Yeah. So I just badgered Stig, I think, probably to breaking point where he had no option but to ask me to come back, really. So yeah.
And coming back in, like, is obviously a blank slate as a club in a way.
Yeah.
But how was that coming in? Like, was it easy in a way because you had all that experience you could just implement straight away, or was there a lot of teething problems starting out?
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy times. I don't think any of my experience that I had in football had any benefit at that time, because it was just so mad and such a one-off. We were really lucky that not only the IS, but George Webb at the time, Ken Kinnersley, Stig, obviously. There was a small team of people, but Paul Crowell with the stadium and Ali McCarg and people like that worked really so hard behind the scenes. It was unreal to get it where it is. But there was a lot of kind of catching up, because obviously when the club set up, he's like, maybe we'll get 800. That'd be great when they're 800, and then we're like getting 2,500. I remember me and Stig. I remember one match day. I think it was probably Dunkirk. The ticket office used to be where the kit room is, and we just opened the door. We walked in. There's 2 ticket volunteers with a cardboard box in between them and a mountain of cash, like because they just couldn't sell the tickets quick enough. Couldn't sell it. And you know, me and Stig would walk across town on a Monday with far too much money in our bag, and we'd walk into the bank. We didn't have a business bank account at the time, so we can just drop and go now. And there's far less cash because it's all kind of card society now. But back then, probably didn't even have a card machine, I guess. But we go in the bank, and they just like roll their eyes, because we had to stand and they had to count the money, put the money through the machines. This backlog of people. I think there were only like 2 counters in the bank. And, so they kept, when are you going to get this business bank account sorted? We're like, we're on it. But yeah, it's just crazy times. But yeah.
And obviously, that first season, a lot of success, promotion, cup win, 2 cup wins, and then obviously getting to Wembley. You know, obviously we got there another time, a few years later as well. What were those Wembley experiences like? What was it like? Obviously, as a fan, you know, it's very exciting. But what's it like when you work for the club and finally get to Wembley?
It's like mixed emotions, because the whole build up to it, the first time, we had meetings at Wembley. You know, we went down with Morpeth and the other teams involved, and Wembley were fantastic. You know, tours of Wembley when we were there, and real good experience. The day was fantastic. Obviously, we went down with the team, which went down the 2 days before. We couldn't go around Wembley with the team because it was Man U Crystal Palace FA Cup final the day before. So security, we couldn't do it. But Beach was like, I want the players to kind of get a sense of Wembley. So we took the team bus the day before and parked up basically outside Wembley and just had a look at Wembley. That whole experience was fantastic. You know, I got to sit in the Royal Box at Wembley. I mean, that's just insane, isn't it? But then we lost. Wembley is the worst place in the world to lose. Yeah. Honestly,
it really is.
I don't take defeat well. Yeah. I take it very personally. And I get a little bit stroppy, if I'm being honest. So we had arranged to meet the players' families at a golf club just outside Wembley. So we got on the bus. I just wasn't in the mood for drinking at all. And I was just stroppy and moody, really. I'm surprised anyone wanted to talk to me. But the whole Wembley experience, apart from the defeat, was fantastic. It was really good.
Did the second time feel weird because of COVID?
Because of COVID, really weird. You know, all the pre-meetings were online, so we didn't get to go. I think we had one visit pre that we could go to. And doing the tickets were quite hard. We know we did the ticketing, we did bits, trying to make sure that every fan that kind of deserved it was I had sleepless nights over it, because whatever we came up with, we knew we were probably going to miss some people, because we just couldn't catch them all, you know. But, you know, me and Rob Crawford at the time, we'd be in the office late at night, literally going through spreadsheet after spreadsheet of fans, trying to make sure that anyone that, what we wanted was, if a fan's been to a game or bought something in the shop, or, you know, has been here before, that they would get the chance to get a ticket to Wembley. We didn't want people who just kind of only come to the big games. So yeah, there was a lot of effort there. And then the day itself was very weird. It was probably the first game, because of COVID, we were really limited on press, on media. I don't think I'd been appointed general manager at the time. I think I knew I was going to be, but it was like after, or it was that kind of period. So we had the Radio Hereford FC guys that had the media passes, because there were so few. So Matt Ponter, Frank, Ruth, people like that, and the photographers, obviously. And Greg Davis, obviously, down in London at the time. But there wasn't any room for him, but there was, Wembley said, there's room for 2 of you to be like player liaison, basically take the players to the media interviews and get that done. So that's what me and Greg did, which was basically the first game where I didn't really do any work during the game. I actually got to sit and watch the game.
Love that, yeah.
And I was like literally the row behind the dugout, just me and Greg sat on our own, like no one knew us. It was mad. So a very different experience. Still a horrible place to lose. And I remember getting on the bus waits outside, and so there's Hornchurch bus and our bus, and as we walk past, they're struggling to get this case on the bottom of the bus. It's like, and then you hear them saying, can't fit the trophy on the bus. Oh. And like, that's the problem you want, isn't it? You know, you leave in Wembley, it's like how you fit the trophy on the bus. So, because it comes in this massive black case. So
it's a big trophy.
That just really rubbed salt into the wounds, really. But yeah.
You talked about the general manager role. How did you find that transition? And you talked about sleepless nights with tickets and stuff.
Yeah.
Is that the hardest part of your role now, would you say? Or?
Trying to be as fair as possible is hard, because we have a fantastic team of staff and volunteers, but it is very small. We're blessed to have 2,500 fans on average this season, but it creates challenges that we just can't do the level of service all the time that we wished we could. The marine tickets are a bit of a good example at present, because our ticketing system is e-tickets, digital. It doesn't do posting paper tickets, but Marine Centre's paper tickets to post. So we've had to kind of have a workaround with that. Obviously not everyone's happy with the postage cost, but that it is the cost of posting and the transaction fee and the envelope and things like that. So it's been a real challenge trying to make sure that we're kind of being fair to everyone, which sometimes comes across to certain people, maybe one person that you're not being fair to them because you're trying to be fair to everyone. So it's a real balance of kind of trying to go above and beyond, but also maintaining that fairness as well. I think on the whole, we generally do it. Yeah. But Emma, our customer service assistant in the office, she's 2 days a week, but she's absolutely fantastic. But there's a limit to what she can do and the volunteers can do and I can do. So I do take things personally. It's a negative of mine. I take quite a lot personally. So it does hurt when I know that we can't kind of do everything that we want to do. But just have to try and get on. But in the whole transition of general manager, to be perfectly honest, coming out of COVID, James Watts had left, and I kind of just naturally took on quite a lot of it. And Rob Crawford at the time was kind of mentioned that he thought I should probably go for it. So that's I did. So I kind of kicked myself that I didn't go for it the first time. I messaged James Watts and said, I think this would be great for you. And I should have been selfish and kept quiet and gone for it myself. But Watsie's great. I love Watsie to bits. He's doing really well at Swindon.
Well, he's done an amazing job so far. So
I try, but I'd like to take a lot of credit, but it is the staff and volunteers.
So we've got a question from one of our fellow London Bulls, actually, Joe Clements, who is in the room with us, for those who want to know. She asked, what's the strangest request that you've ever had in your job from a manager or a player or even the media? Has there been anything odd that somebody has wanted or needed?
We've had, when I was at Newport, someone wanted me to take their car for an MOT, and I was like, pardon? Here's my keys. I'm like, what do you want? He's like, can you go, my car needs an MOT, can you go and take it? And I was like, at the time I was media officer, I was like, why am I doing this? So I took it to the garage. Well, that was quite strange. But then talking afterwards, he'd come from like Championship, where they have like people do that. They don't, I remember Stefan Stam coming into the office, chucking his keys on Lee's desk and saying, I got a flat tyre. And Lee was like, there's a couple of tyre places. And he's like, no, I'll train, you get my tyre fixed. And it's just like, because that's where they come from. So, I mentioned John Sanders, who's at Leicester. That's his job. they'll sign a player and he sorts out everything for them. So I kind of grew to understand after, but at the time it was a bit like, why are you asking me to take your car for an MOT? In terms of other weird things, football is, nothing really surprises me, to be honest. So I don't think there's anything that I class as weird. I'm sure there's probably some things, but the music festival we had, that's an eye-opener in terms of what some of the artists want as their riders. I think Peter Andre had a long list of really random things, of, particular water. Like water's water, surely. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, nothing stands out as being completely crazy.
We had another question around communication. So people love the calls you do with Stig online. Do you think that's helped build like relationships better with the fans? Do you think?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. Yeah, I'd like to think so. I think hopefully it kind of explains like the inner goings on. I think a lot of people, it's very easy from the outside. When I was on the meadow end, probably the same, of thinking, this is easy. Why haven't they done that? Why are they doing this? And I think that's kind of the thought behind when Stig came up with it. Obviously, Stig's a PR guy. He wants to communicate with everyone, and it's really good. But so hopefully it kind of explains a little bit about the decisions. We make decisions. We know sometimes they're not going to please everyone, but you do have to make tough decisions. Going back to general, being involved in setting ticket prices, it honestly kills me because I got a young family. They're all season ticket holders. So 3 kids and my wife are all season ticket holders. Granddad and that. So I want them to be as cheap as possible. It's coming out of my pocket at the end of the day, but equally I can see there's got to be that balance. But yeah, I just hate, because I'd love to say a tenner all in, but we put your finance hat on and it's obviously more than that. So we do try and keep, when there are increases in the bars as well, the beers, I love a pint of Madry after the game, so I want it as cheap as possible, but equally I know that it's got to make sense financially. So yeah, those are tough decisions.
So is that a hint for after the game if we see you that pint of Madry?
You took that hint. Was it subtle enough?
I think it's interesting you say about trying to obviously be transparent, trying to be open to the fans. Maybe that's what Turner wasn't so good at, because he wasn't that type of person, was he? He was a manager, and that was so it is good to see. And I think Paul Caddis has really taken that on as well, which is brilliant. So obviously you mentioned Stig. Obviously you do those chats with. He was really interested to know if you've managed to find where the kettle is yet. If you know how to make a cup of tea.
See, there's this perception among certain people at this club that I never make a cuppa, which is categorically correct.
Well, we can confirm Tom's got
actually,
that's
true. It was very good,
Well, you sent through the questions the other day, and I read them out in the office, and John Sadler said, well, you made me 2 in January, but that's probably my 2 for the year. To be perfectly honest, I've maxed out early on there. I'm very good at putting the kettle on, and I'll go back to my desk, and then about an hour later they'll go, did you make the cuppa? And I'm like, oh no. So yeah, Martin Brain in the office, he's fantastic. He supplies me with probably about 8 cups of coffee a day.
Love that.
So yeah, perfect.
We had a question from Guy Cook. He said, best moment with Hereford United and Hereford FC. What were your best moments for both clubs?
Probably Brentford away.
Yeah.
I was sat, Keith Hall, Ricky George, me and Greg up in the commentary box, and just as the day unfolded, I was meant to go back to Hereford, but I went out in London with Greg for a couple of pints, because it doesn't happen every day, does it? So yeah, Brentford for Hereford United, I think, right up there. Hereford FC, I'm not sure. I love a last minute winner, so I'd love to say like Midland Prem winning the league. Obviously that was great. That season was fantastic. I'm not too sure how many seasons of that you could do without it getting a little bit boring, maybe.
So 3 was enough.
Pardon?
3 was enough.
Yeah, just about, yeah. I think we need a couple more now. But yeah, I'm big believer, be in football to be the highest you can be. That might be like the Hereford Prem, might be the Premier League, but everyone in football should be trying to be the highest that they can be. So a last minute winner. So we've had a few last season, didn't we? There's a GoPro footage of the dugout. I think one game last season, I can't remember what it was, but me and Nick are on the edge of it, and we just start hugging each other. And we're not huggers either of us. So yeah, it's things like that. I just like at the moment, I just love things like that. It's like last minute winner, yeah.
Love that.
That's great, isn't it? So we wanted to cover something that's very important to you. You've done some amazing fundraising for Birmingham Children's Hospital.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've done them on the marathon for that as well. Why, if people don't know, why does it mean so much to you? What's so important about that hospital?
So 2 of my sons have been there. Alfie, my eldest, they minor procedure when he was kind of 5 years old, I think it was. But, you know, we kind of fell in love with the place then. It was really good. They were fantastic. And right from the moment we went there, because we spent a bit of time in Hereford and they weren't really sure what the issue was. Went to Birmingham straight away. Oh yeah, we know what it is. We know how to fix it. No dramas. So yeah, I think I did maybe like a half marathon or something to raise money for them then. And then 2014, Arthur comes along, and Arthur's got a bilateral cleft lip and palate. So I've got a unilateral one. He's got a bilateral one. So obviously born in Hereford, he gets treated in Birmingham. So right from a very young age, as a baby, he's had several operations there, and you know, regular checkups and everything. And every time we go there, it's just such a great place. Like the expertise, they just know what they're on about. Yeah. So that offers you reassurance. So it's just a way of paying back, really. So yeah, I've run the London Marathon a little bit for them. I think I've raised like £10,000 in total over the years for them. But yeah, so that's why, you know, I just, you know, he had his last operation, the last operation that he has to have last year, up there, and you know, it's a great place. It was a real tough operation because he looked so sad after it for like a week or two, but Birmingham's fantastic. So yeah, any money there, I split it like between the cleft ward, but also like just the whole hospital in general, because it's just such a good place. So they do some fantastic work. And then more recently, and this was just before my last marathon, Charlie, my middle son, one of his friends sadly passed away with a brain tumour. So Kaya, she was treated in Birmingham, and the whole kind of care that they gave to her mum and her sister as well. Sadly, she lost her dad as well, but years before. But you know, my wife was there when she sadly passed away, and she was like the whole kind of the care that they gave was fantastic. So I just think it's a brilliant place, and you know, it deserves every penny it can get, really. So I try and do a little bit for them.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll put a link underneath this video, for sure, if anyone wants to donate towards it, because you say fantastic place, fantastic people.
Yeah, it is.
They do such amazing work.
Yeah,
so
they do.
Really important. So last thing, I think it's important for us maybe to just mention today's game.
Yeah.
Big game against Alfreton, of course. How do you think it's going to go, and what do you think the score will be?
They're always really fantastic spectacles of football against Alfreton. So I'm expecting a free-flowing. Alfreton are good at what they do. They're right, you know, they're always up there. I think they're like 13th at the minute, which is probably a little bit below where they probably want to be. It's going to be tough. The run of form we're on at the moment, every game's massive. I'd like to think it's going to be a win. I said it was going to be 3-0 on Tuesday, so I was 2 goals out. But I got the win, right?
Yeah,
didn't I? I'll take any win at this time of the season where we are in the league. A scrappy 1-0, I'll be delighted with. But I'd like a little bit of relaxation on the touchline. So maybe let's go 3-1.
Nice.
I'm always positive.
Yeah.
You could do, that's what it is, yeah.
I think that was the same scoreline when Jared scored, wasn't it?
It was.
In the comp, yeah. So.
Yeah.
But what an unbelievable interview that was. We're really, really lucky to have you at this club, and thank you for your time.
Yeah,
It's
thank
been
you for
absolutely
everything you
incredible.
do with London Bulls and really kind of getting that going. So yeah,
Appreciate it.
If you do the London Marathon again, we will have a group of London Bulls waiting for you with a pint of
There
Madry
we are.
at the end.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, only at the end.
Maybe every mile. But no, thank you very much for your time. Thank you everyone for watching as well.
Yeah.
And we'll see you soon. Hopefully with another guest.
Thank you. Awesome.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much.
No,
thank you.
very
Really
much.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I don't know how
Thank
long
you.
that ended up being.
No.
Yeah.